there to see it, but she's watching anyway. People have told me that I've inspired them. I mean, I can't even begin to wrap my head around any of this. And I'm going to show a whole lot of pictures, a lot of which you probably haven't seen, or maybe haven't seen in a while. And there's lots of good stories. Hopefully you'll have a couple of laughs here. But I just want to say that this all comes from a love of music and photography. My best friend says that music can get you through anything, and I absolutely and truly believe it. He wrote and directed a movie called Almost Famous. Maybe some of you have heard it, and it's really about what it means to be a fan of music. And there's a speech that Fairuza does at the end of the movie, where she talks to Russell Hammond, the guitar player, and she says, "Do you have any idea what it means to love a little piece of music so much that it just hurts?" And you know, that was me, and still is me. I may not like the music you like, and vice versa, but it's all about that. So let's. Well, that's the book. That's the cover of my book, Exhilarated and Exhausted, which the title I picked because it describes the way I feel every day of my life. I wanted the book to be experiential in nature and allow the reader, hopefully, to feel as much as possible what it's like to travel on the road with a band like Led Zeppelin. You know, these little bands, Queen, Fleetwood Mac, The Who, 100 others, 200 others. I mean, if I tried to list them, I'd run out of paper here. It's not always a glamorous life. Well, it's never a glamorous life, because I'm too busy working. There are times when I'd have fun, quote unquote, but well, we'll get into that in a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to start showing some pictures, and I'm going to read a couple of things out of the book at some point. Now, this picture is actually my hotel room on the Amnesty International tour. I think we were in San Francisco, and I'd been in the room about 8 hours. Now, some of you may not have ever seen a roll of film, but for you people down here, those are not old tacos, those are actually Fuji and Kodak film boxes. And I don't know what possessed me to put a camera with a full-frame fisheye up in the corner of the room and shoot it, but I guess I had amazed even myself trashing that room. But it's part of my job, not to trash a room, but you know, whatever happens, happens, right? I am going to read a little something from the book. I wrote 30-odd pieces that were morphed into 20-odd pieces about my job. The pressures, the stresses, the 48-year case of jet lag, which will never dissipate, ever, ever, ever. You know, not unpacking my bags. I was like if you guys remember TWA, I felt like I was on a flight crew of TWA because I was, you know, on a 4-day trip and a 3-day trip, and it never ended. Anyway, I have a major love for anyone who's on a rock crew. And behind the scenes, as you probably know by now, it benefits, helps take care of a lot of guys and women who are on the road for years and had physical problems, mental problems, drug and alcohol problems, you name it, and didn't have health insurance. And if you go to see a show at the Forum or the Garden or any venue in the world, it doesn't just land there from outer space. There are a lot of people who work very long hours to make that happen. Anyway, I wrote a little piece called Run It by the Crew. So try going 4 months, averaging 2 hours of sleep a night while traveling from town to town 4 to 5 times a week, and see how you feel. If any of your sanity remains intact, try going to work and see if you can perform your job, much less keep your eyes open for even an hour. I'm betting you will crack pretty quickly, yet roadies work under those conditions routinely and do their jobs perfectly. Think about the last concert you saw at the Garden or the Forum or the O2 or any other arena or stadium in the world. The shows don't magically appear out of thin air. There's an amazing amount of work that goes into loading a show in and seeing the performance through and tearing it down. And I believe that there is no job on the face of the earth as physically demanding and stressful as being a roadie on a big rock tour. They work 20 plus hours a day. With hardly any real sleep. And the constant stress is not only physical, it's also emotional. I've watched many, many roadies up close, and I still, to this day, do not understand how they do it. Just get my paragraph here. It's a fact of life that you will get nowhere, especially with someone like my job, literally or figuratively nowhere without the crew on your side. Rarely does a roadie not have his or her guard up for good reason. Their asses are on the line every single night. When something goes wrong, they're the ones catching hell from the band, regardless of who's at fault. And then I write about the protocol for being on stage. You know, the stage is the roadie's domain. Everything you see in front of the amps is your band, but in back of the amps, that's the roadie's nation state. It's like the Vatican. You know, and you have to have decorum. You have to have your laminate perfectly visible, because it's impossible to argue with some security guy who's a part-time wrestler for UCLA, you know, while Kiss is playing 11 feet away from you. No one's going to hear you. You don't touch anything, you don't breathe on anything, you don't look at a cable, because you're being tracked by a dozen pair of eyes. And you're going to be shot down like a U-2 over Russia in 1960 if you're not careful. And you want those guys on your side. And as I like to say, when the show is loading out, watch out, get out of the way, because it's not worth getting impaled by a forklift because you're trying to impress some girl from Memphis that you'll never see again. And I speak from experience. So, moving on. The one that got away. There's so many covers that we could do wallpaper in this whole convention center. And I threw a couple of random out. Of course, I'm most proud of the Wheaties cover, the Wheaties box cover of Mary Lou Retton. But, we love Mary Lou, and we also love Bruce and Jimmy and Robert and the Eagles. Boy, the last couple of years have been rough. These people dying, I'll tell you. Glenn, tip of the hat to Glenn Fry. And of course, on the bottom right, my all-time favorite, Pete Townsend. For any of you that know me, you know that I will walk into any gallery around the world, and if I see a picture of Pete that I haven't seen before or catches my eye, I am taking it off the wall. It is now mine. I will trade something or pay you. I don't care if that puppy's coming home with daddy here. So, and there's some more. I'll tell you what's weird. Working with someone like Greg Allman in 1973. Of course, I was about 4 years old. And shooting a picture, and then 40 years later, it becomes the cover of his autobiography. That is a freaky feeling. But you see Greg, and then you see Kate from Almost Famous, played Penny Lane. Stevie Nicks album cover in the top middle, Trouble in Shangri-La, and then next to that, a Fleetwood Mac cover. Actually, the idea for that cover came from Lindsay, who showed me. He had a Japanese DVD, or maybe it was a VHS, I can't remember, but he had this Japanese tape that was about two people who were dead, and the cover was a man and a woman facing just like they are, upside down and right side up. And we decided to do that, and Stevie and Lindsay are on the front, and Mick and John are on the back. So that's where that came from. Upper right is the one sheet for Stevie's documentary, which she made about making of the album she made after Trouble in Shangri-La, and it's really good. She turned out to be an incredible director. Then with Bruce on tour, Jimmy's autobiography, which that's his passport photo, but I'll get into that a little later. My friend Mackenzie Phillips wrote a book. There's her book cover, then a Led Zeppelin book. with my cover, and then a Heart album that was shot in a steam room in Van Nuys. You know, sometimes you have an idea and you go into a shoot and it doesn't quite work out when you have the people in front of the camera. Well, Heart had made a record, Passion Works, and they didn't have a cover, and it was getting close to the deadline, the art deadline. And I got a call from someone who worked for them saying, "Do you have any ideas? The girls need a cover, boom, boom, boom." And one of my favorite all-time covers is by a band called the MC5, and they made a record called Back in the USA, I think. Born in the USA is Bruce, Back in the USA is the MC5. And they're all kind of sweaty and have this weird kind of ravenous look on their faces. And I said, well, let's just rip that off. And Stephen Paley shot that, by the way. So the girls said yes, and we rented the steam room at a health club in Van Nuys. And I think I got about 7 rolls of film before people were going to have strokes and heart attacks, because you can't bring in gallons of Jack Daniels and other unmentionables into a steam room, not to mention the fact that my lens kept fogging over. I had an underwater housing, and I'd shoot 10 frames and have to clean it up. It was a mess. So, anyway, you guys know who that is, James Patrick Page. One night, and this comes under the heading of you never know what's going to happen or what you're going to be asked to do. Someone from the band's management comes over to me on the plane. We were going from somewhere to somewhere else, and said Jimmy needs a shot for his passport because he and Robert are going to Egypt after this leg of the tour, and we need to get a photo to the Egyptian consulate in Manhattan. So I go into complete work mode. What's the deadline? First thing I always will ask someone when they give me an assignment is, what's the deadline? And don't give me your soft, fake deadlines. I want to know the deadline, because I come from the world of deadline journalism, and that's how I compartmentalize my time. Well, the hard deadline was like 1 p.m. tomorrow, and this is midnight. So I grabbed Jimmy, I take him back to the plane where there's some white wall space with very little, and I shot 3 frames, and he let me pick out the one for his passport. Got the film to the lab. I sat there, no sleep. Can you imagine not getting any sleep on a Led Zeppelin tour? Because I was worried. First of all, we had the deadline, and the lab guys have been known to steal photos. It's happened to me. Anyway, made the deadline with 45 minutes, I'm proud to say. And then 40 some odd years later, that becomes the cover of his book. So you never know. I love this because it says Led Zeppelin, shocking backstage history of rock. I've been asked in interviews, was it as crazy with Led Zeppelin as we've all heard? Wink, wink, meaning is there as much sex and drugs? And I always say, if you mean crazy as a metaphor for that stuff, I will tell you that it was crazier with REO Speedwagon, which it was. So, the shocking backstage history. Robert Plant. I like to say that this photo would never have worked with anyone other than Robert, or at least any male other than Robert. But the story of this, and it's become a somewhat famous photo, is we were doing an outdoor gig at Kezar Stadium in San Francisco in '73, and because Robert's a real hippie, and they love San Francisco and peace and love. So as a tip of the hat to all that stuff, they brought 2 cages of white doves. I think they were pigeons personally, but we'll call them white doves. And 6 behind Jimmy's amp and 6 behind Jonesy's amp. And the idea was at the end of the stairway, they'd be let loose into the crowd, to fly away forever. Except one bird did a slow burn around the audience, probably inhaled a little too much because this was San Francisco. And the town is crazy. And it flew right back onto the stage, and Robert just stuck his hand out, and it landed on his hand. Total happy accident. And I like to say that if the bird would have landed on Jimmy Page's hand, it might not have worked out so well for the bird. So. Greatest manager in the history of rock, or one of two or three, Peter Grant. Getting aboard the plane and, mugging for the camera. And it's funny because Peter was a massive man, and for years and years I had recurring dreams about Peter Grant, as if he was a father figure, and then I realized he must have been in some way. But if you were in the band, or in the band's, on the band's side, let's say, he would do anything for you. But if you weren't, he would do anything to you. Kind of like the mafia, so I've heard. But I owe him a debt of gratitude, and I've watched him. He only had to spank me once when we had a show in Cleveland, and then a couple days off, and then the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. And I found out there was a Little Feat press party in Detroit that was happening the day before our show. So myself and the PR girl and my friend Danny, who was the Atlantic Records rep, just decided to kidnap Robert, who wanted to meet Little Feat, and take him to Detroit. We flew commercial from the Cleveland airport. It was pretty funny, and we ended up not going to the party because I had heard that it was at the Detroit Hilton, and it was actually at the Troy Hilton, which was about 60 miles away. So, but when the band came in the next day, I got a call from Richard Cole that said, "You better go to Peter's room right now." And because no one had told Richard and Peter that we were taking Robert out of town. So, I had to get 6 11x14s of John Bonham printed within 24 hours and slipped under his door, or else I was going to be fired. And I jumped through massive hoops to get it done. And I ended up printing the photos myself in the Cream magazine darkroom. I managed to get a hold of the keys and slipped them under Bonzo's door by 11:58 a.m. I had 2 minutes to spare. Deadline journalism. Jimmy and Robert on the plane, on the Starship. You've all heard about the Starship. Yes, it was a great plane. Yes, I've been on, every plane imaginable. This was the first one I'd ever been on with a bar and an organ, electric organ in the middle, and they're actually watching a video monitor with, I think, a movie called The Girl Can't Help It. Is that an Elvis Presley movie? That's courtesy Cameron, you remember that. I love this photo because, to me, this feels like being on stage with Led Zeppelin. It's during No Quarter, and Robert's at the mic on the left, and Jimmy's taking a hit on a cigarette and staring right at me. And I remember shooting that picture. I remember it was f2 at a 30th of a second. Don't ask me how I remember, because I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. But right after I shot that, he came over to talk to me, to tell me something. Now, this is usually not a good thing. When the main guy in the world's biggest band wants to talk to me during a show. And he came over to me and he said, "Is that the tour doctor in the front row?" And we had a tour doctor on tour with us who had a big bag of everything the doctors carry around. And he had about 6 blondes with him. And I said, "Yeah, Jimmy, that's Dr. Larry." And he says, he pulls more girls than anyone in this band. And then he whips out a searing guitar solo standing right in front of Dr. Larry, True. So on the table of contents page of my book, on the facing page is a picture of Dr. Larry showing me the contents of his bag. Get a table of contents? Anyway. This is, if I have any kind of style, I shoot weird silhouettes and things like that, and take what the lighting director gives me. I love this reverse shot of Jimmy. Everyone sees him from the front, but not a lot of people get to see him from the back. Leonard Cohen was a monk, actually, not only a talented singer-songwriter, but I used to have a People magazine contract for years, and I did 700 shoot days for them, the most assigned photographer in the history of the magazine. And one day I was sent to shoot Leonard Cohen, who is a monk on Mount Baldy, which is kind of between LA and San Bernardino. And I go and shoot him at this monastery, and He's a total monk regalia, except for the fact that, and he was living a very Spartan life when he was up there. Cook on a little hot plate and not even hardly speak. Except he'd go down the hill and do a couple of gigs every once in a while because he had alimony to pay or something like that. So, you know, you do what you have to do to get through it. T-Rex, Mark Bolan, never got his due, you know. I don't know why, but Cameron did an interview with him for Rolling Stone, and I shot the pictures, and the guy put away like a whole bottle of champagne in an hour or something, and got really tipsy during the interview, and I'll never forget that. But it is what it is. This is a very, very young Michael Jackson. Pretending he's, well, who would have been at the time? Will Chamberlain? You know, hard to say, but I started shooting Michael, but I don't know how old he was here, but it was probably in 73 or something like that. And there was a book that came out right after he passed away called the Michael Jackson Opus. And it's this huge book that weighs about 50 pounds, and it's a big oversized book, and it's fantastic. And I wrote a piece for that book, and I was honored to ask to write a piece, and Quincy Jones wrote one, Bill Clinton wrote one. I was really like amazing company. And I wrote about Michael, and I said he always reminded me of one of those movies where, you know, there's a king and the king has a son, the prince, and the king dies suddenly and the prince is 10 years old, and everyone looks at the prince and goes, "You're king now, what do we do?" "I don't know, I'm 10 years old, don't ask me." Like, he always seemed like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders, and we all know, you know, the rest of his life story, but he was even strangely quiet and sedate, but something was going on inside his head. Michael in Japan, on the Bad Tour, which apparently has become the quintessential Michael Jackson tour that everyone thinks about. And that could have been opening night. Or maybe that was the US leg, now that I'm thinking of it. Sorry. We were supposed to do a People magazine cover of Michael, and the writer and myself scouted out a location in the Ginza because I wanted the neon lights of Japan in the background. I mean, I had it in my mind's eye. And we go out there the night before, and it's beautiful. I've got just the right spot on a corner where I can set up one light with an umbrella and boom, get it. So the next night we've arranged to meet Michael. The next night's an off night at 10 p.m. or whatever it was, right at the street corner. I've given them all the directions and everything. Me and the writer go out there about an hour early, set up the light, do my test, my Polaroids, and wait for Michael. And at the same moment I see the van pull up, 1,000 kids come out of the subway station. I don't know how they found us, but it was pandemonium on this street corner in Tokyo, and I couldn't even, you see the security guys holding people back because they're trying to hold these crazy fans back and to give me some room so I could shoot a cover with the space for the cover lines and everything. And I actually wanted to shoot the other direction, but we couldn't because there were 8 trillion people there. And so this was a test frame, and I mean, I got a roll of film, but it was crap. This is my favorite frame from the shoot. Marvin. I shot Marvin at his house, at his dad's house, where he was ultimately killed a year later. And it was originally shot for People magazine, and then a year later, when he died, it became the Rolling Stone obit photo. Marvin had been overseas and went through some major, you know, self-awareness problems and drug problems, and was, you know, he wanted to be Frank Sinatra. He wanted to be the Black Frank Sinatra, but he couldn't get beyond the Marvin gayness of it all, and he came back to the States and then cut Sexual Healing, which became a huge hit. And this was his last major photo shoot that he did. and then he was killed a year later. But before we shot that day, he was sure that there was a joint somewhere in this big couch he was sitting on, and he would like to find it before we start shooting. Well, we looked for it for 45 minutes, taking this huge sectional apart. It was like Captain Queeg and the strawberries. There were no strawberries. This couch, if you would have seen it a wider shot, you'd see it was a huge sectional with 50 pillows on it. But then he said, well, just make me look good for the ladies. That's what he said to me. And I thought, you're Marvin Gaye. Give me a break, no problem. You know who these guys are? Creed magazine wanted a holiday cover, non-denominational. So they called me to do it, and I said sure. And we shot this at the A&M Records photo studio in Hollywood in like September. It must have been 95 degrees out. We brought in this cheeseball movie backing. It was supposed to look like Vermont in the snow, and big boxes of this polyurethane movie snow, which is highly toxic. They don't even make it anymore, right? It's really dangerous stuff. And I had two guys up in the rafters sprinkling a little of the polyurethane snow flurries, you know. And we start shooting, and we're getting the stuff, and Ace is pretty toasted. And at one point, I go into another room to either grab some more film or a lens, and I hear, boom, something fell. Yeah, the guitar player, Ace, fell flat on his face into the snow, passed out, took a big whiff of the polyurethane snow and started coughing up blood and stuff. And I vaguely remember someone, Gene or Paul or someone saying, maybe we should call 911. By the time someone said 911, he was out of there. His roadie got him out at the end of shoot. But, you know, you gotta manage your chemical, it's a delicate chemical balance, people. Take it from me. Stevie, if anyone in my life has been a muse, for me it's Stevie Nicks, who I will say is a close friend, and I can count them on one hand and have a finger or two left over. I once was on my way to a shoot and I had an accident in a camera store. It's a whole other story, but cut my finger open and couldn't make the shoot, and they got a hold of me in the hospital, and Stevie offered to get my dog, Bailey, out of my car because she knew I had the dog with me, and that's a friend. I think she was also happy she didn't have to shoot that day. But she's the most creative person I know, and this is the real her. I love this picture because I always tell her to this day, if the rock thing doesn't work out for you, you could either be a stand-up comic or a picture editor. There's always a job waiting for you at Time Life. She is the best photo editor I know, and not only for her own stuff. I could give her a take on Marvin Gaye, you, and she'll find the best photo, exactly the right crop. She can do anything in the world. She's that creative. So I speak very highly of her. This is I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen a proof sheet before, but this is from a shoot that we did. We wanted to shoot at the Hearst Castle. Now, if you know anything about Stevie, you'll know that that's right up her alley. You know, I've seen the Hearst Castle; it's incredible. But we figured, well, Irving could get that okayed for us, Irving Azoff. And the word came back that when William Randolph Hearst died, he left the Hearst Castle and the property to the state of California with the one caveat that there would be no commercial photography ever done in it. I think there was one scene of Spartacus, the movie, that was shot in there. So instead, we settled on Pickfair, the famous house where Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford lived. And Pickfair, I forget who was living there, but man, there were like black velvet Elvis paintings all over. It was horrible. But we shot at the top of the staircase, and we shot on the lawn, and no, I've never shown those to anyone. There's a whole lot of film from that shoot. Happy accidents. That's the real thing. It's Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis, from right to left. This was the last tour the Rat Pack did in '88, and they were doing it in the round, which means that the stage is, is not at the side of the hall, it's in the middle. And you got to be careful shooting in the round because you're always trying to chase the photo. You go that way, the stage will go that way, or they'll turn this way. And I was going crazy trying to get a shot of all three of them where you could see everyone, and they weren't mugging or drinking or whatever. So I decided to just park by the LA Times guy and wait for the shot to find me. And this is what I came up with, and I was really upset because I had to turn in the film, and I didn't have a shot where you could see them, and my editor, MC, and people said, sometimes a photo of someone's back is more interesting than their front. And I never forgot that. And this was just a moment. This is total Frank. Brian May, I spent a lot of time with those guys, and we'll talk about the movie in a second, but this is one of Brian's favorite shots of him. I'm not sure if this was in South America or wherever, but he, as Brian said, you never knew how strong those flash pots were going to be. I mean, there was gunpowder in them. And you guys who do special effects and rigging, you know what's in them. I don't. All I know is I came very close to straddling one night, and my life was saved. Or certainly part of my life, wink wink, was saved by a roadie who got me away from standing right over me. But Brian likes to say, well, we were boys and we had a lot of toys. And they did. I just love this. And, there's not much to say about it other than he once again is now the biggest rock star in the world. Live Aid. Okay, you guys have seen the movie. You guys have heard about Live Aid. Maybe you've seen the actual gig on YouTube. I was, one of 20 people on stage with them. I don't know how I do know how it happened, but I was I was the official American photographer for the London Live Aid, not the one in Philly. And the Who and U2 and Queen, McCartney, Elton, David Bowie. It was a pretty good lineup. But Queen put everyone else away. And when I went and looked at the YouTube tape recently, after seeing the movie twice, I realized Brian May played like a man possessed that day. So if you go and watch the YouTube video, I've never heard him play like that, and I've seen 100 Quentin gigs. It's astounding. And look at the look on Brian's face. It says it all. This is a famous, this is a shot at the very end of the movie, right as they start to roll credits. They asked to use this shot, and that was a hell of a day. And you know what? You don't realize when I don't realize when I'm shooting something like this, what's going on. I'm in work mode. If you would have asked me at the end of this gig, wasn't that incredible? I would have gone, I don't know. I'm too busy working. Don't talk to me. I got to shoot the next band. I mean, you know how I am when I'm in the middle of work. Don't talk to me. So it was a great day. Freddie in South America, the lights and the everything, it was massive. And Peter Frampton, who we saw earlier today, had gone down there before us, but I don't think he brought his whole big show, but we did, and the crowds went crazy. They were in the hotel rooms all night. Freddie, in front of the hotels in the streets. It was insanity. There's no way to describe it, and it truly was the eye of the rock and roll hurricane. But in Argentina, we had secret police everywhere. And these are people who literally knew where the bodies were buried, and it was crazy. Hey, you got to get a haircut sometimes, right? He loved being Freddie Mercury. I will say that about Freddie. I became very close friends with Brian and Roger, who both have houses in LA, and I love everyone connected with that band dearly. But, there's only one Freddie Mercury. I love this moment. I found this on a proof sheet recently. I think that's from South America, and it was hot down there, and sometimes you can't see a person's face, but the pose says it all. Famous picture, what can I say? I realized that it was the third frame I had shot that day. I could have taken the rest of the day off. As I like to say, I know a strong image when I see one, and I know a weak one. I've shot more weak ones than any photographer in the world. Sometimes the stars align and you get it. So, thank you to Freddie. And if you see the two red circles at the bottom, this is actually a work scan, and I had made some notes to clean up some dust and gunk that had gone into the negative, which happens a lot. A lot of my film used to be developed by Time Life in the Time Life lab. And the guys there would tell you, we're the cleanest lab in Manhattan. And I'm here to tell you they were the dirtiest lab in Manhattan. I'm still cleaning gunk out, and I'm still pissed off about it. Freddie doing his own makeup, and I love this because if he was around now, there would be 20 people doing his hair, his makeup, his wardrobe, his this, his that. As I like to say, Mick Jagger has a guy who brings him his tea, and that guy has a guy who goes out and buys the tea, and that guy has a guy who tells the guy who buys the tea to give it to the guy that gives Mick the tea, what kind of tea to buy, and so on and so on. And that's why concert tickets are so expensive. But Freddie would do his own makeup, and that's a real private, it's not so much that it's a private moment, but it's a moment that you guys would never get to see. Whoops, other than on here. My band, and that photo was actually the cover of The Who's 25 Years Maximum R&B, but on the box cover, they moved Pete over to the top, so he's flying off the top of the frame, as opposed to the upper right corner. And there you go, thank you. And John Entwistle was added to bottom left, the guy with the pink haze over the wall. No, I had the pink haze. The guy who's got a magenta gel shining on him was added from another photo so that you can see all the band members. And I am still blown away that I did a cover for The Who. I mean, I'm a fan of whom I'm a fan of, as some of you guys know, and Pete's the guy. This is for Ralph, one of Ralph's favorite pictures from Light Power. The same night that I shot the photo before, Roger Daltrey tried to kill me with the mic because he thought I was stepping on the cables in the pit and the monitors were cutting out. Well, I didn't know that he was angry, but I did see that the mic was being swung closer and closer to my head. But I just figured, what the hell, you know, it's what he does. And then some roadie came and bear hugged me, literally picked me up, moved me to the side, said, don't move, got my camera bag, and said, Roger thinks the monitor's cutting out because of you. You've got to get out of there. He will kill you. So stay out there. They sent me out to save your life. That's what he said to me. So we were at Winterland, San Francisco, and they had a little balcony up and back, and I snuck up there and shot reverse shots from the back. And that's when I got that. And I lived to tell. Unlike these tambourines, which many times would not live to tell, Pete would hit the tambourine at the beginning of Bob O'Reilly, and I've seen his fist go through the tambourine. That's really tough to do. I've shot him when he, I think his hand's taped up, his right hand, camera left. You know, he'd always be putting the whammy bar through his hand and stuff like that, and there'd be blood everywhere, and he'd be so in the moment. I could go on all night talking about Pete, but he'd be so in the moment playing that he wouldn't even notice it until after. I mean, he'd notice it, but it's like, you know, don't bother me. I mean, this guy who kicked Abby Hoffman off the stage at Woodstock, kicked a fireman or a policeman in the butt at the Fillmore East and had to go to jail because of it, because they were on his stage. And P.S. Don't ever go in any band's dressing room unless you're invited, especially The Who. Even now. You could get a guitar thrown at you, a drumstick, or both. It's very dangerous, and I know that from experience. Hi, the Foo Fighters. I've lost a bunch of my hearing, and I lost probably 20% of it that day. In that rehearsal hall, where I had to shoot the Foo Fighters for a British magazine, after we did all the nice outdoor Seattle by the water shots, they go into this little rehearsal hall, and before I go in, Rhodey says to me, "Here," gives me a set of earplugs. I said, "No, can't use them. I've tried, and there's a disconnect between the camera firing and what I hear, and it just doesn't work for me." And he said, "No, you're gonna need them." I said, "No." He said, "You're gonna need them." And I said, "You know, I've worked with this one and that one and this, and I rarely pull that stuff, rarely. But I said, I can't use them." He said, "As you wish." Puts me in there, closes the door. They start playing. Within 15 seconds, I had a migraine. Within 30 seconds, I thought there was blood coming out of my ears. And at 45 seconds, I was physically nauseous. I did have to go to puke. And I got out of there. I shot out the rest of the roll of film. And my hearing has never been the same since that day. Thank you, Dave Grohl. I hate you with a passion. I do. I've seen the world. Unfortunately, I've seen it with Wham. But you know what? The Great Wall of China, 20 minutes with Wham. And you know, you get there any way you can get there. With all due respect to Andrew Ridgeley, George was a little vain. And I did the last Wham tour, which was a US tour, 7 dates, and it was the only tour that I considered quitting in mid-tour. I didn't quit, but when you're waiting for someone to approve a stack of pictures, and he puts you off for 2 hours because he's playing with a curl in the mirror to go to a party that he ends up not going to because he can't get the curl the way he wants, I gotta say, enough is enough, you know? And Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, Bob Dylan, Roy Orbison, George Harrison, aka Traveling Wilburys. I get a phone call one day from Tom's office, my friend Mary Klauser, saying, "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing?" I said, "It's the usual, nothing." Those days probably smoking a joint or something. And she said, "Do you have time to shoot something for Tom today?" I said, "Yeah, what do you got?" "Well, he's at Dave Stewart's studio with some of his friends in Encino, blah, blah, blah." I said, "No problem." I called my assistant who was available, and then I talked to Mary again. She says, "Okay, so you can do it?" I said, "Yeah, what's the address?" She said, "Well, hold on, Tom's on the other line, I'll have him call you." 2 minutes later, Tom calls me, "How you doing, man?" On the call. And he said, "Well, we're at Ventura Boulevard. You take a left talk to George." Guy gets on the phone with this thick Liverpudlian accent, telling me, "Well, you go to the 101. It's George Harrison." I don't remember anything about the phone call after that, true. And I got to the house. It was Dave Stewart's house. He has a studio in his house. And it was the 5 of them, me and my assistant, and 1 roadie. That's it. No handlers, no managers, no anybody. And George Harrison, who I had met before, very briefly, takes me into a side room and he says, "Okay, so here's the deal. When Bob is in the mood, we'll give you the signal, and when Bob is feeling it, you can shoot Bob with us." And then Tom walks in, and Tom says, gives me a hug, and he says, "Okay, when Bob is ready, we'll make sure that he's in the mood." It's like, you're Tom Petty, you're a Beatle, enough with the Bob stuff. And I couldn't find it on the hard drive I have, but there's another frame, which is a test frame, where you see Bob way in the background playing a video game, and he's hunched over, like Fireball or something. And, Bob, he's running the show. The Clash. Go figure. I was touring with The Who in 1982, and we played Shea Stadium. I was doing the pictures for the cover, and I'm backstage at Shea Stadium, and this car rolls up, and the Clash jump out of it. And I'll admit I'm not a Clash guy, but I made it a triptych to make it somewhat more interesting, a little photo trip there. But I get why you like them. Dr. Dre in his home studio. A rare shot of him in a studio, somewhere in Northridge, I think. And this is a long time ago, but it was rare that he would do shoots, one-on-one shoots in the studio. So thank you to Lori Earl, wherever you are, for that one. Okay, this is the Amnesty Tour in 1988, which I was lucky enough to go around the world on, featuring Bruce and the E Street Band, Sting, Peter Gabriel, who's in the shot, Tracy Chapman, some other people, and that was an experience that was unforgettable. We went from, I did every gig but the first two, so I started in Costa Rica, up to Montreal, Philly, LA, Oakland, then Tokyo, it's amazing I can remember this, New Delhi, Athens, Ivory Coast, Zimbabwe, Buenos Aires, Mendoza, Argentina. I mean, and we had two reconfigured DC-10s. One for the crew, one for all the equipment, all the band's equipment, and one for all the personnel, configured in coach. 7, 8, 9, 10-hour flights every 3 days in coach. And, oh man, what a hangover. But this is in the Ivory Coast, where I left out Abidjan, the Ivory Coast, and I've got on a lighting strut from up top and shot this picture of Peter falling into the audience, and you see all the faces, which are black, and now here's a shot from roughly the same position in Oakland, and all the faces are white, and I kind of thought that was interesting. Rock and roll. You know, it's funny, when we're on the Amnesty Tour, and you go to places like Abidjan, Harare, Zimbabwe, they don't get big concerts like this. They don't get Bruce at the peak of his fame. They don't get...
Thank you for attending the NAMM show.
Like I said.
The show floor is now closed.
Good.
Please exit to the front of the hall, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night.
I wish I was Johnny Carson right now. I'd have just the right one. Anyway, these people, you don't get big rock shows like this. I remember the tickets in New Delhi were like $3 or something like that. And most of the people backstage were at the embassies and consulates. They were all in India. One of my first backstage pictures of Robert and Jeff Beck backstage at the Singer Bowl in Queens, New York. I think that must be a low res that got a little unres there. Sorry for the foggy parts. But I love the look on Robert's face. It's like, I'm going to be able to do anything I want for the next 60 years. Bruce at Wembley Stadium, one of my good luck venues. And I mounted when you're on tour day after day after day. Is that Robert I see out there? Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, you start looking for new eyes from which to view the show through your camera with. You don't want to take the same picture over and over. So I decided to mount a remote camera on these little pod stages by the side of the main stage. Bruce would run down the ramp and go here, he'd run down the ramp and go there, but he'd always do it at the same time, every show. So I mount a remote camera with a cable coming down underneath this little pod stage. And I knew he was going to go there during Hungry Heart, which was the second or third song of the second set of the show. I go in his dressing room and I say, I just want you to know that I've got this remote camera, and if you can remember, if you can turn around and face the camera, we can get a shot of you with facing the camera with the whole crowd back of you. And I didn't even think he was listening to me. And he was like, eh. So I just start to walk out and he goes, okay, I'll do it. Well, the second set starts, and do the first song, and then I'd run under the stage, because I know Hungry Heart's next, and I have the remote cable it's hardwired, not wireless, so I've got the trigger in my hand, and all I could see is a little slat with boots coming, and I know he's up there, and I just hold my breath and fire 36 frames in a row. And the film was developed the next day, and Bruce has completely mugged for me, facing the back of the hall, where they did not sell any seats. The crowd must have thought it was nuts.
Now closed.
And
please exit to the front of the halls.
okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The crowd must have thought he was nuts because the shots he was doing this to nobody. So it's kind of a staged photo in a way, but couldn't have done it without his help. Iconic Bruce and Clarence from rehearsal, early rehearsal for Tunnel of Love in Jersey. I think we were rehearsing an airplane hangar or something. I remember working on a video for One Step Up, I think. I don't know, I worked on a lot of music videos, people. This is a proof sheet of Bruce in Japan. And I wish it was a little bigger, but this is the first time I kind of worked closely with him, and I kind of was respectful of keeping my distance until he was used to me. And it's a great sequence of him coming. You see the door from the stage coming down the tunnel, and all of a sudden he's there and walking towards me, and I guess it reminds me of good times, I would say. Bob Dylan, Tom Petty. It's amazing how many people sparked to this photo. Tom hired Tom and the Heartbreakers to be his backup band on a Japanese tour or something in '85 or '86. And that's where this is from. And it's Howie Epstein on the far right, who was the bass player, who's no longer with us. But he was a great guy. Okay, David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust, New York City. We're going to do a Q&A soon, by the way. Ray Charles. That's a Braille chess set. And the white squares are different heights than the black squares, and the tops of the pieces are simplified, so someone who can't see can feel the pieces, but you have to remember where they are. He beat me in 7 moves, and he did. He checkmated me in 7 moves. And I'm not Bobby Fischer, but I'd like to think I could have beaten Ray Charles at chess. I used to play chess a lot when I was a kid, and I know chess notation, all that. Forget it. He beat me, and he knew he was going to beat me. There's your Sid Vicious, man. You know? Enjoy. I especially like the goober on the bass guitar, you know. And they broke up about 3 hours after I shot this picture, having nothing to do with me. Lindsey Buckingham, he's a musical genius, regardless of anything else in this life or a previous life or the next life. He is a musical genius. I've seen it for myself. And one of the most fascinating days I've ever had was sitting and watching him work that board, and he didn't even know I was there most of the time. That is one of the perks that I will, never forget. And thank you to my job for that. I mean, really, it was special. Eddie Van Halen at the US Festival in San Bernardino.
Thank you for attending the NAMM show. The show floor is now closed. Please exit the building at this time.
Interestingly enough,
thank you, and have a great night.
We're very close to The End, which was a big Doors song, and I love that Jim Morrison is drinking in the middle of the gig at the Garden. What the hell? And is this the second one for The End? As I like to say, some things you do for love, and some things you do for money. Iggy Pop. Anyway, I'm being given the mini hook here, but can we do a Q&A a little bit? Okay. I've shown pictures. We're going to bring you a... Is that working? Oh, do you want this one? That guy over there? Melissa will be very nice. Oh.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
My friend, who's a gargantuan fan of your work, as well he should be, wants to know if you still keep in touch with any of the Zeppelin guys.
Yes, no. I mean, our paths crossed. I spoke to Robert on the phone for about an hour a couple of years ago. He called me for something. We were like 2 little girls who'd been in high school together, and it was really great. And we connect through other people as well.
Hi.
Hey,
I know Geddy Lee right now has done a book on his entire
Geddy Lee?
yeah, on his bass collection, and I was wondering if you had any influence in talking to Jimmy Page about doing that with his guitars, because I would really love to see a book of your photography of his guitar collection and just some history about some of the gear that he
Well,
used.
honestly, I never have, and I wasn't. Obviously, I know Jimmy has a lot of guitars.
Yeah.
He's probably got one of the most famous ones in the world, the Double Neck.
Yeah.
But no, it's never come up. I've got to say that the guy who's got the best guitar collection I've ever seen, without question, is Mike Campbell.
Oh, really?
Oh my God. It's like the guy plays a different guitar every night of his life. I mean, truly amazing collection. So it's the best answer I can give you.
So what did you think of the Bohemian Rhapsody movie?
Well, I'll be honest, when I saw it, I made a conscious effort to divorce myself from the fact that I knew them and had been there for a lot of it, etc., and tried to approach the movie as a fan of the band, which I am. I knew the music was going to drive the movie. The problems I had were the fact that Freddie didn't know he was sick for Live Aid, but it was used as a dramatic vehicle, and I understand why the studio did it, but as a fan of the band, I kind of thought it was blasphemous, and Brownie did a really good job. It's a tough gig playing Freddie Mercury, because if you're too on the money, it's cartoonish, but if you're not close to being on the money, it's a farce, so you're walking that line, and I gotta hand the guy credit for that. And I heard that the first shoot days of that movie were the Live Aid sequences. So, talking about pressure on an actor and being around movie sets and my best friend and watching actors. I mean, I don't know how anyone remembers a line, aside from everything else. But you know what? People come out of that movie humming the music as they sound for Broadway musicals. So it's all good.
Hey, just to follow up, I was curious to know, do you feel like the movie captured his essence?
Yeah, it kind of did. It kind of did capture his essence. Freddie was flamboyant, and like I said before, he loved being Freddie Mercury, and what I felt it didn't capture was the essence of the other guys. Brian and John Deacon and Roger are just as much part of that band as Freddie was. But you know what? That's why I'm up here, and the guy at 20th Century Fox is counting $1 billion in receipts. Mr. Schurz, do you have a question?
Question? I have a question.
Oh, wait, hang on.
Yes, I wanted to know when you first got interested in being a photographer, and did you feel, like when you were young, did you want to be a rock photographer? Was there other types of photography or creativity you were interested in?
Well, when I started in photography in 1960 something, there was no such thing as rock photography, a term I do abhor, but it was just photography. And my sensibilities are always as a photojournalist. Document what's going on, be invisible. It's like a journalist learns, you don't become part of the story. You're covering the story, you don't become part of it. And that's where my sensibilities always were, and I never planned on having this job. Don't know how it happened, but I've never had another job in my life. And it goes quickly. One day I'm walking down Queens Boulevard in Forest Hills, where I grew up, worried about where to get the lox and bagels, and the next thing I know, I'm standing here talking to you. That's how fast it goes. The gentleman up here.
Sean,
A little closer.
a lot of us love the shot of Jimmy Page swilling Jack Daniels backstage. How much of a grab was that? Did you see it coming?
Well, I saw it coming out the corner of my eye. I was sitting at a table. I remember Jimmy was on my left. I was talking to someone on my right, and I happened to have a Nikon with a 24mm lens on it. It was sitting in my lap. And out of the corner of my eye, I happened to turn, and I see the bottle starting to go up. And I just swiveled around, one shot, and forgot about it. And normally I'd press the I'd shoot 10 frames, one frame, and sometimes you don't know what you have until later.
For the photographers,
Right.
I've seen it cropped in different ways.
No, you haven't seen it cropped in different ways. You've seen bootleg versions.
Mr. Preston, two questions. When did you start working for Queen? And because most of the pictures I see of the band are around a night at the opera, but I don't see enough pictures of the really early
The
ones.
show floor is now closed.
1977.
Please exit the building at this time.
Yes.
Because
Thank you.
yes, because
At 76, maybe.
okay, so that
I mean-
I've always wondered how come there's not a lot of pictures of the band.
Because
from
nobody
like
knew who they
72
were.
through-
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I have a bootleg of them at the BBC from like 72, and I don't even recognize any of the tracks on the, on the song list. So I couldn't tell you that.
And same question about Zeppelin. When did you become hired by them?
Well, I started working. The first time I ever shot Zeppelin was in 1970. I was still in high school, at a famous press conference in New York, and I shot them at the Garden that night. Or that day, they did 2 shows, one in the afternoon, one at night, and then I started working with them through Atlantic Records and West Coast, like 72, 73. I was officially hired by them for the Swan Song launch party, and then 75, 77, and then we're at 79. And I was getting ready for the 1980 tour when John Bonham died. Time for a couple more? Are we okay? Yeah, blonde lady?
Self-professed David Bowie fan. Any
Okay.
anecdotes about the shots of him or working with him?
No. I was never a big Bowie guy. My business partner for a long time, Andy Kent, went to Russia with David and East Germany, and when no one from here was going to those places. I've shot some shows here and there, but there's just one guy I never really worked closely with, unfortunately. I wish I had something better to tell you. Yep.
Hi, I was watching your, I was at your exhibit the other day, and you said that you never got a new camera. You couldn't afford a new camera. You always had the old one. So why did you afford a new camera, and how did you get onto the stage with Led Zeppelin?
There used to be this camera store in Forest Hills called the Forest Hills Photo Center, a little neighborhood camera store, and I would walk by and just lust over the cameras in the window, like someone walks by a Maserati dealership, and I'd swoon over the Leicas and the Nikons, and I had an Exacta or a Miranda. I had every camera sooner or later, a Minolta, Miranda, Minox, a Spotmatic, you name it. And then I got a Leica, an M3, and used that for a while, and then finally I could afford my first Nikon, I don't know, 71 or something like that. But I was already shooting in the business, and once you're making money, then you can afford, cameras are expensive. They're really expensive now. So.
What has been your favorite camera of all time?
My favorite camera?
How do you think you've owned?
Or lost, or destroyed. My favorite camera? Well, I'm a film guy, I'm not a digital guy. Yes, I shoot digital, and I'll back it up with film and vice versa. I love my old Leica. I love every Nikon I've ever had. I mean, I don't know that I've had a favorite camera. I've had Hasselblads, Mamiya 6.7s, you name it. Maybe my first camera, an Ansco SpeedX 4.5, which was a great little camera that you press the button and the bellows and the lens would come out. And I first got it, and I didn't know how it worked. I kept pressing the button, it would never fire, and I couldn't figure it out until I realized there was a little thing you cock the shutter, and then it would fire. Cock the shutter, fire. Cock the shutter, fire. I was off to the races. Here I am. So,
What's your next gig?
I can't tell you. I mean, we've got stuff coming up. I don't like to talk about it. Time for a couple more, probably. 10 more questions and 10 more minutes. In the back? Yes? Oh, I thought... Okay. Let's see. Yeah.
What's your favorite Queen photo?
I don't know, but someone once told me that the Queen photos were the best things ever shot, so you'd have to ask her. I'm not sure. Oh, one more question here. No, I'll begin to wrap this up.
What was your favorite magazines you shot for? Which ones did you respect?
My favorite magazine?
Yeah, I mean the magazines, the publications you worked for, like which ones did you respect and respected you?
I would say probably Time magazine, because that's the granddaddy of them all.
Okay.
I was fortunate enough to shoot for Life magazine when they brought Life magazine back in the 70s, late 70s. And I actually did the first story on Teddy Pendergrass after he had his accident. I had known Teddy before his accident, and Life magazine assigned me to shoot him after his accident. And luckily, because it was me, Teddy said yes. And you know, as a photojournalist, when you're shooting for Life magazine or Time magazine, that's the top of the mountain. You're not going to get any higher than that. In my world, that's king. So.
As a follower.
Yeah, what picture do you think you made the most money on?
Next. I don't talk about that stuff. Lefsitz's came up to my house, and we did this Led Zeppelin digital book about 5 or 6 years ago. The Rhino produced. So my friend who was working at Rhino brings Bob Lefsitz up to the house, and my friends know that I did not like this guy's writing, but he is what he is. And he sits there and he says to me, "So how much money you make?" I said, "I'm not going to tell you." He says, "So how much money did you used to make?" "I'm not going to tell you." And the column he ends up writing is about me and how I wouldn't tell him anything. And I love that. You know? I mean, sometimes, you know, if someone says to you, "Don't repeat this to anyone," you shouldn't repeat it to anyone. And there's very few people left who act like that. And I believe that personal stuff is personal, and stuff for consumption to the world is for consumption to the world.
This has been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Where else can we see your work? Do you have work in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or Smithsonian or?
What's the radio show that says in the air everywhere? Yeah, there's stuff of mine at the Hall of Fame. There's stuff of mine at Yankee Stadium. There's stuff of mine at the new Wembley Stadium. Hard Rock in Las Vegas, most definitely. The Light Power Collection in Paderborn. My book. A lot of different places, certain galleries that sell my stuff across the country and across the world, around the world. But thanks for asking.
Hello, Neal.
Hello.
It's your old friend Ed.
Ed. Hey, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good.
All right. I came in late, but I didn't want to see you. And I have a question for you. You know, in this digital age, I was wondering if you still are using any film. Are you shooting film at all?
Yeah, I do. I still shoot film.
What are you using?
The question is, where can you buy film?
Yeah, where are you getting the film?
Freestyle on Sunset.
Oh, right.
I mean, you go to Sammy's, they still sell film.
Okay.
It's just, I'll tell you a funny story about film, actually.
Please.
Years ago, Kodak stopped making a film called Panatomic X, and it was the Kodachrome black and white film. It was 32 ASA. You could blow a picture up the size of a mountain and not see any grain. And they stopped making it, like 87. I was heartbroken. I'm in Buenos Aires, and I walk into a camera store, and they've got 120 rolls of Panatomic X at about quadruple the price of a roll in the States. I bought it all. And I was the only guy in LA who had Panatomic X for 5 years after that, because you can put it in the fridge and it won't go bad. So, you know, when you start loving a film, be careful because Kodak will stop making it. You can count on that.
Thanks, Neal. That's great. Great story. Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you later.
You got it. Anyone else, or because we should probably wrap this up soon. You know, everyone's been amazing to me this weekend, and I'm at a loss for words. The stuff I've heard, I never dreamed it would happen, and to have someone say that I've inspired them to shoot any picture, a picture, number of pictures, whatever. Kids have come to me this weekend. It's mind-blowing. And I'm a big proponent of and supporter of giving kids instruments, musical instruments, cameras, paintbrushes, whatever it takes to be able to take that seed, plant it, and let it grow. And I don't think there's enough of that going around. And I truly mean this, and you know, I'm addicted to CNN, and let me tell you, kids need stuff like that now more than ever. And I had a principal of a school come to my house a couple of years, 3-4 years ago, because I donated a bunch of cameras to the school, and the principal came by and said, there are kids in my school who are truly talented, who truly will make a difference, and you will hear their name someday. And that meant everything to me. So, anyway, 2 more questions quickly. Okay. Trying to wrap it up sentimentally.
Sorry. No, I just wanted to know what do you enjoy shooting more, the film or the digital? And do you? I mean, I'm a film person. So.
Yeah. Digital is great for low light. There's no question about that. But my friend Woody, who was until recently a Hollywood gaffer for years and years, now retired, he says, the problem with digital is the pictures are so sharp they seem brittle, like they'd snap in two, like an icicle, right? I agree. Yes, you can, and you have to run post-production on raw files, so it's not like you're not going into a darkroom. It's not cheaper than film. It's more expensive, certainly in man hours than in money.
The show is now closed.
The way it looks.
Please make your way to the exit.
That's
Thank
the
you.
answer. That's the true answer. Hello.
Is there anyone you haven't shot that you really would like to show?
The only person I haven't shot that I've always wanted to, and you guys are going to think I'm out of my mind or whatever, is Christina Aguilera. And it was, for a long time, it was Courtney Love and Christina Aguilera. And I managed to do a shoot with Courtney for the book. And she was great and really smart, and she's incredible. But I was supposed to shoot Christina years ago, and she was going to do a tour with Justin Timberlake. And Irving said, come on the road with us. And the tour got canceled. So I never got to shoot her, but I think she's got pipes like nobody. And, you know, I've worked for Barbra Streisand, I've worked for Whitney for years, and Christina's right up there, so. Anyway, I'm tired, you guys are probably exhausted and exhilarated. Thanks for coming.